Fellas, it's slumber party time as we're heading back to Millennium in this week's Blue Archive Global Update for the new Millennium themed event Secret Midnight Party, and with it marks the arrival of our seminar wives, Pajama Yuka and Pajama Noa as the new permanent 3-star units. Though sadly, no Pajama ni ha, probably cause she's hiding for her damn life. In this video, I will mainly be covering Pajama Noa, whereas Pajama Yuka has already been revealed in a separate video. I'll leave the link to it in the pinned comment. Anyways, without further ado, here is a short review of Pajama Noa. Now hear me out, boys. While I've never exactly been the biggest Noa fan before this, I don't hate her or anything, I just don't vibe with her regular version's design, which is crazy cause y'all know I'm a sucker for white-haired girls. Also, no one tell Rhea Sensei, alright? But Noa's pajama all, good golly gumdrops fellas, my knees buckle every time I see it cause holy heck, she is hot. While she isn't wearing anything revealing, in a way, an oversized nightgown suits Noa better and is, in my opinion, way more seductive. Cause imagine, you could hide under there when Yuka is looking for you while gomanning her, wink wink. Aside from that big white nightgown that's making my bina tremble, I feel her white hair is even more alluring compared to her regular version, particularly cause it is styled in a high ponytail, and as most of you know, ponytails make me weak. Other than that, there's also the purple cashmere scarf that she's wearing, and god, I need her to angrily suffocate me with that pillow while she's riding me. All in all though, I'm a big fan of Noa's pajama alts design. I think it has helped me develop a bigger appreciation for her cause I wasn't really the biggest fan of her regular version's design. And I'm quite glad she has got a matching alt with Yuka, her best friend, cause the three of us can now sleep together. So, what type of student is Pajama Noa? Well, she is a permanent piercing DPS striker with red armor whose terrain moods are as follows: B combat power in urban terrains, S combat power in field, and D combat power indoors. She also uses gloves, pin and watch, similar to a bunch of other DPS units. It's time to take a look at PJ Noa skills. In a rare move, starting with her basic skill, after she activates her EX twice, she increases her cost recovery for 30 seconds while switching her EX skill's next use to an enhanced version. With her normal 5 cost EX, she deals damage to one enemy while inflicting them with weakness detection for 20 seconds. And enemies afflicted with this debuff receive additional damage proportional to Noa's attack, though this debuff can't crit and can trigger up to a max of 240 times. Meanwhile, her enhanced EX is cheaper at 3 costs and has increased multipliers. Her enhanced skill increases her attack, and with her sub skill, she boosts her piercing effectiveness for 10 seconds after every 10 normal attacks. At UA 40, her enhanced skill plus further improves her attack, and her field combat power upgrades from S to SS at UA 50. So, is PJ Noa any good? Well, as you can tell from her kit, she is primarily a strong yellow damage dealer who is also a weakness detection debuff applier, being one of only 4 in the game, with her main source of damage lying in this debuff. This is due to her EX skill, which can apply a powerful weakness detection debuff onto one enemy, with it dealing 33.4% additional damage equal to Noa's attack at max level skill each time an ally hits said enemy, and it has a fairly decent duration of 20 seconds. Not to mention, this potent debuff can trigger up to a max of 240 times, though the downside is that it cannot crit. Plus her EX is relatively expensive at 5 costs, so you may need to pair her with cost reduction units. Not only that, her EX's initial single target shot that applies the debuff can dish out pretty respectable damage, as a result of its huge 1442% multiplier at max level skill. Like I mentioned earlier, PJ Noa also has an enhanced EX skill as a result of her basic, which works exactly the same as the normal version, except that it's cheaper at 3 costs, has higher multipliers, with her weakness detection's numbers going up slightly to 39%, whereas her single target damages multiplier is increased to 1683%, and she gets angrier in her EX card. Thus, as you can see, PJ Noa is a very powerful weakness detection applier, being the strongest one in the game so far, as she is a superior version of both Miu and Meru, mainly cause she can deal a lot more damage. Though compared to both of them, she has pretty low attack, which is her biggest drawback. Thus, her high multipliers and the extra attack on her UE40 help to compensate for this. You would also overcome this disadvantage by partnering her with potent attack buffers, which is extremely important because remember, weakness detection debuffs scale off the unit's attack. Plus, you can also pair her with piercing effectiveness buffers as well as Kisaki for her EX skill damage buff to significantly amp up her EX's weakness detection debuffs and single target attacks damage. While crit buffs are needed for her debuff, cause remember it cannot crit, you can still technically use her with crit buffers to boost her initial pillow throws damage, though this definitely isn't a priority. Finally, since her debuff can proc up to 240 times, you will also need to have fast attacking / multi-hit units in your team as well as attack speed buffers to increase these units' rate of fire in order to reach this threshold within the 20-second period, maximizing your damage and allowing her to deal damage up to 8016% or 9360%. Thus, all these have made her the currently strongest weakness detection applier in the game, to the point where in the right circumstances, her damage output can be comparable to Mika's. Moving on, her basic, as we know, grants her a cheaper and stronger enhanced EX after activating her normal EX twice. But at the same time, it also increases her cost recovery by 803 at level 10 skill for the good duration of 30 seconds, allowing her to activate her enhanced EX faster than getting to her next one quicker. Next, her enhanced skill and enhanced skill plus further boost her somewhat low attack, with the latter being extremely useful because it massively improves her debuff's damage. Though this would mean that she requires a lot of investment, particularly if you want to bring her into harder difficulty content, as that additional damage amp will be needed. Finally, with her sub-skill, she is able to increase her piercing effectiveness by a whopping 88.9% at level 10 skill after every 10 normal attacks. While this is a very potent buff that can also contribute to increasing her EX's damage, its 10-second duration is really short, plus its 10 normal attacks requirement is pretty steep since she uses a pistol, which would take around 30 seconds to proc without any attack speed buffs. Hence, overall, PJ Noa is a strong yellow DPS unit and weakness detection debuffer, being superior to Miyu and Meru due to her high damage output as a result of her big multipliers and self-buffs, as well as those from other students. Now, where can she be used in? Well, as a powerful weakness detection applier like her counterparts, PJ Noa's main use lies in the Wakamo Hovercraft raid Phase 2, being used in a lot of Sensei's teams in this raid ever since her release, especially on the harder difficulties like Insane to Lunatic. Her job in this raid is pretty simple: periodically implant her weakness detection debuffs onto the hovercraft while dealing decent yellow single target damage with her pillow throw, all of which are helped by her excellent mood in the raid's field terrain. And you would buff her with attack buffers like Camp Hare, Kisaki for the EX skill damage, while also partnering her with fast attacking DPS units like Neru, Mika, Uniform Neru, Maki, Utaha, etc. to help trigger her debuff as much as possible. Not to mention, she takes less damage from the boss's yellow attack, and there's also the 10-second 10% increase incoming damage debuff that the hovercraft accumulates every 15 times it is attacked. So combine this with a weakness detection debuff and it results in your team being able to absolutely shred through this boss. Thus, these have allowed PJ Noa to become the primary weakness detection debuffer in quite a number of Sensei's teams. Plus, sometimes she is even chosen as the main damage dealer over Mika and Uniform Neru, though you will need to invest into her UE40 or maybe even UE50 for Torment and above, as the additional attack and improved field terrain mood will significantly boost her damage. With all that being said, from what I've personally seen, PJ Noa isn't actually that prevalent on Torment, Insane or below, with quite a lot of Senseis still being able to clear these difficulties without her or any other weakness detection debuffer really, since borrowing Mika for your second team is usually more than enough to clear these difficulties, something I'm sure many of you can attest to. Or once Uniform Neru arrives, then she'll be one of the best DPS options to clear this raid as well. However, for Lunatic, she is used/borrowed for most if not every Sensei's team, since you will need a lot of teams to clear this difficulty, which was evident in the previous hovercraft raid around a month ago, where those who attempted Lunatic needed like minimum 6 teams, which is why that PJ Noa is absolutely required for this difficulty, as a powerful weakness detection debuff can help whittle down the boss's passive health bar. Heck, even Mew, Meru, and part-time Sumire are needed for this difficulty. So basically, PJ Noa is an excellent unit for Wakamo Hovercraft, and while she's not as needed for Torment and below, though using her in these difficulties can make it a lot easier, she is meta and a must-use for Lunatic. Aside from this raid, Pajama Noa could be useful in other yellow armored raids, like perhaps Philbina or Philkite Phase 2, since she can still pump out good damage, though you would only use her as an extra DPS unit for an additional team, and you'd have to pair her with the appropriate units so that her debuff is effective. So overall, should you pull for Pajama Noa? Well, in my opinion, if you want to have higher score clears in the Wakamo Hovercraft raid, like perhaps you want to take on Lunatic difficulty, or you want to have smoother Insane and Torment runs, or maybe if she's your waifu and you want to sleep beside her in her L2D before doing ungodly things to her, then go ahead and pull for her. However, similar to PJ Yuka, I would personally recommend skipping her, cause again, the 4th anniversary banners are around the corner, which should be your absolute priority, so you should be saving your pyroxenes. You can also skip her if you don't plan on going too far in the Wakamo Hovercraft raid and you're content with just using the good or reliable lineup of Mika, Neru, etc. like before to get past Insane and below, or if you're able to borrow her from your club/friends list. And that's all for this week's reviews. Again, the PJ Yuka review has already been uploaded on the channel. I'll leave the link to it in the pinned comment. Please go check it out if you haven't. Anyways, that's all from me. Let me know if you're pulling for PJ Noa. Good luck with your pulls if you are, and see you tomorrow.